tasted victory. And today, the winners will be crowned. 16 of the best Blizzard RTS players converged here at BlizzCon 2008 to showcase their skills against some of the best to ever play the game. Today, 2 of those players will surface as BlizzCon RTS champions. The 2008 BlizzCon tournament webcast is brought to you by ATI. Some faced defeat. Others tasted victory. And today, the winners will be crowned. 16 of the best Blizzard RTS players converged here at BlizzCon 2008 to showcase their skills against some of the best to ever play the game. Today, 2 of those players will surface as BlizzCon RTS champions. The final matches of StarCraft Brood War and Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne are about to ascend to the stages of BlizzCon. Who will be the champions of these games? The answer is only a few matches away. Today, every unit is crucial. Every day is life and death. Prepare to attack and ready your micro. This is the conclusion of the 2008 StarCraft Invitational and the Warcraft 3 Global Finals.
What is up, BlizzCon 2008? The tournaments may be over, but we've still got something special for you guys. A StarCraft 2 exhibition match that's going to take place here on the stage between Sonkie, a Warcraft 3 player, and Yellow, a very well-known StarCraft player. And we'll introduce these players in just a moment. We've also got 2 very special guests with us here to bring us all of the StarCraft 2 action. To my left immediately, it is Rob the Voice Simpson, esports coordinator for Blizzard. What's up, Rob?
Not much, man. I'm here. I'm excited to show the world the first ever broadcasted match of StarCraft 2.
And your partner in crime for this broadcast, we've got the lead designer for StarCraft 2. No one better to talk about the game than this guys. It's Dustin T-Bone Browder. Give a big round of applause to these guys. All right, before I hand it over to them, let's go ahead and introduce the players for this matchup. First, from Canada, a Warcraft 3 player, as I mentioned before, it is Sonkie, and we do have his information already. He'll be playing as Zerg, and he will be red. And his opponent from Korea, there he is, Yellow. You've probably heard his name before in association with StarCraft. He'll be playing as the blue Protoss. And I do understand that we have our map selection already, and this will be a best-of-3 exhibition match. And with that being said, I know that these fans are ready for some StarCraft 2. So I'm going to hand it over to Rob and Dustin. We'll get this game started. Guys, take it away.
All right, and here we go. We're going to be starting the game. Now, the first map that we're going to be playing on is Lost Temple.
Right. So this is a classic map from the original StarCraft. It's been redone a little bit for StarCraft 2. It's given us the option to add some new play mechanics, and you'll see some of these come online during the game.
All right, so up here in the 12 o'clock position, we do have Sonkie playing as that red Zerg, as we had talked about earlier. And all the way down in the lower left-hand side, that is the 9 o'clock, we do have Yellow playing as the blue Protoss.
That's right. So Lost Temple is still a map where it's very easy to rush, but you can also sometimes defend on it if you move very quickly to position yourself. And these players are starting kind of close together. So it should be really interesting to see what happens in this opening part of the game.
Right now in the beginning of the game, we can see up here Sonkie is already sending out that Overlord, going to try and scout the other player as soon as possible. StarCraft 2, exactly like the original StarCraft, it is important to know exactly what your opponent is up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Scouting is really, really critical if you want to survive these opening parts of the game. We've got some new terrain mechanics in the game that can really be key in trying to figure out what's going on with your enemy. If we come over to the middle of the map, we've got these Xel'Naga watchtowers that we can use to spot enemy troops. If you capture one of these towers, right there, you'll be able to actually see what's going on around the tower. So it's very important for the players to grab these towers. That tower in particular will be really key for this match.
And it'll be especially key because, again, it is right in between them. Now, a radius that this is going to give them is just about that large. So you can see that it's much larger than just having your screen. So if you're able to keep a unit there, you're going to be able to see an enormous part of the minimap anytime that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. We go over to look at the Zerg base, or the Protoss base. We see the Protoss player sending a scout. He's got his first gateway up. This is pretty typical what we'd expect to see. And that probe is going to the right position. It's moving in to see what's going on inside the Zerg base. And he has seen that Zerg fast expand. That's really important for the Zerg player to get that expand in there and make use of it. But the Protoss player has seen what's going on. It can make a real difference in his next few moves.
So this could mean that we're going to see Yellow likely retaliate by building a bunch of Zealots very early in the game. He's going to need to push that Zerg as soon as possible, or else he's going to be in very big trouble because the Zerg is almost 100% certain to surpass him in economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the original StarCraft 2, economy is extremely important. If you out-resource your enemy, you have a huge, huge advantage in facing them down.
And here we have back over at the Protoss player's base. He does have a second gateway down, so we are going to see him going for a bunch of Zealots early. His first is almost complete, and it's looking like he's just going to be throwing down a second pylon. He is prepared to go in for a ton of Zealots. He needs to have all that food ready as he pumps them out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to go for a fast rush here, it looks like. Try to take out that Zerg expansion, or at least threaten it, disrupt its ability to produce in order to get access to all that additional resources he's going to have. It looks like the Protoss player is taking a very aggressive stance to what was a very bold move by the Zerg.
And now back over at the Zerg player's base, it's looking like he is just about to finish up his spawning pool. He definitely needs that to finish as soon as possible, or else he is going to have no defenses available for that expand. And here we have the Zealot making his way into that hatchery, and he's going to be pressuring it as quick as possible. Yellow is also using his probe to pressure, and now he's going to be moving into Sonkie's main base, probably try to take out that spawning pool or some drones.
And there go. It looks like the Zerglings are in production there. This is going to be a real race for the Protoss to see how much damage he can do before those Zerglings come out. Doesn't look like very much. The Zerg are retaliating. They're surrounding that lone Zealot and that probe, trying to wear it down.
Oh, and those Zerglings are just about to finish off that Zealot and probe. It is not looking good, but they have already done a ton of damage to the economy. Over here on the unit menu up in the top left of the screen, we can see that now it's looking like Sonkie actually only has 10 drones to a massive 16 that Yellow currently possesses.
Yeah, see, he really used the terrain very well. The Zerg player backed up to a small corner where he was difficult to surround, and he kept his Zealot alive. And you can see he's still got two Zealots running loose through the Zerg base, doing what kind of damage they can, continuing the harassment, trying to distract him. You see the distraction has been largely successful. Despite the expansion, it looks like the Zerg player is a little bit behind in terms of what he can be resourcing.
Ooh, and Sonkie was able to get that surround on a few of those Zealots right there and take out two of them, and now he's only got 6 Zerglings versus 2 Zealots. That is no match for those Zealots, but the Zerglings are going to fall back to behind the Shrine Crawler because they know that it's not good. Now, Yellow, seeing this happen, is going to take back those Zealots as soon as he can to try and build up his army just a little bit more.
And here's a tech move that's kind of interesting. He's not going for a cybernetics core like I would expect. He's going for a forge to allow him to build more defenses. I guess he's expecting he's sort of lost his position on the ground, and he's going to hole up and tech up here and see what he can get to before the Zerg finally overrun his position. He's got his Zealots at the choke. They are blocking the choke, which will prevent the Zerg from getting in, at least for the short term.
And then we have a ton of Zerglings heading out from Sonkie. That's almost 18 Zerglings. Now, one of the differences that you might notice here in StarCraft 2 is that you control much more than 12 units at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. We've really improved the UI, so you can really control a large number of units, and we've added a lot of additional mechanics on the units themselves. It means you really have to watch what's going on and make sure you're using all of your units effectively, because there's so much more micro that's possible with some of these new units.
Well, now Sonkie actually is going for a third hatchery, so he's likely going to be massing production. He's trying to build his economy back up. He was able to catch Yellow just about in terms of number of workers, but he is still behind. We do see that he has 18 Zerglings out on the battlefield to Yellow's 7 Zealots.
Yeah, so it looks like the Protoss are actually doing pretty well when it comes to economy. Here you can see one of our other overlays. You can see who has the most money in troops on the battlefield. And right now the Protoss is a little bit ahead. They are actually doing really, really well in terms of the amount of forces they have on the battlefield. And it looks like the Protoss player is aware. He knows what we know, and he's pushing in to see what kind of damage he can do to this Zerg.
He's absolutely feeling a little frisky there. He's trying to move in on those Zerglings, but the Lings, of course, are going to fall back into the creep where they actually move faster. That Spinecrawler is going to be laying down a bunch of defense on top of all those Zealots, and there we have the Zerglings going for the surround. We're going to see a lot of damage. One Zealot's just about to go down. It is surrounded. We have a bunch of Lings losing 3 Lings there at the time. We do see one more Zealot going down. They're going to be trying to focus down that Spinecrawler. We see Sonkie bringing in all of his drones to try and back them up as much as he can. That Spinecrawler is just about to go down, but he's looking like he's running out of Zealots. Oh, and the Spinecrawler goes down. There's now only 4 more Lings remaining, and he's going to have to resort to using all of those drones to try and stop them off.
And what a desperate move by the Zerg player, trying to survive. He's used a lot of his economy there in the battle, and you can see he took just a lot of damage there in that fight. And the Protoss player is continuing to push. He's got a Zealot in the base. He's got more troops on the way.
Ooh, and it's looking like he's got a Roach Warren in play. This is going to be very effective against Zealots because they're going to be able to actually kite them very easily on that creep and be able to regenerate their HP incredibly fast.
Yeah, if the Zerg player can last that long, he'll be very powerful with those Roaches. The Roaches regenerate so fast, it's very difficult for the Zealots to surround them and really do a lot of damage. He really needs range if he wants to deal with Roaches, if they can come on. You can see the Protoss player is expanding here, and he has put down a Twilight Council. This opens up a huge number of tech options for him. The most immediate one that's important is, of course, Zealot Charge. Be very powerful for him right now, allowing his Zealots to move more quickly. He could be building Immortals, though maybe not such a great choice unless we start to see a lot of Roaches on the battlefield.
Well, we do see only one Roach out in play right now. It's looking like he's building a Templar Archive, so we're probably going to see Archons, perhaps.
Yeah, that's a great choice against the Zerg, of course. And, of course, he can use a Psystorm as well. Still a great ability, just as it was in the original StarCraft. Very, very powerful in StarCraft 2. The pathing is a little bit better in StarCraft 2, so the units tend to bunch up a little bit more. It means sometimes you get a little bit more out of Psystorm than you're used to seeing.
Ooh, and now we have an enormous army. As soon as Sonkie was able to see that expansion over in front of Yellow's base, that's Yellow's natural, he is going to send over those Zerglings to try and pressure them before the rest of the cannons are able to finish. Are they going to be any match for these three just about to get finished Photon Cannons and two Zealots? Oh, and we've got a lot of pressure. Oh, as soon as Sonkie sees those out there, he's going to run away.
Yeah, he didn't want to give up with that many Zerglings in that fight. He had a pretty good position there, but still it would have been extremely costly. He might very well have lost it, so he's going to back away, going to get some more Roaches in play. Now, the Roaches are fairly easily countered by the Photon Cannon, so the Roaches are not the perfect unit for this attack. Still, the regeneration can be extremely powerful, and if he uses them in a very clever way, he may gain some advantage. You can see he's just activated the Watchtower, but he already knows what's going on, so he's going to push in on the Protoss.
And here we go. It's looking like those Roaches are just going to be microing around. He's probably going to send those in first so that they're going to take some of the damage. No, but he's pulling back as soon as he sees that all three Photon Cannons are now finished and a fourth one is building. He's going to be getting out of there. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map in the 3 o'clock, it's looking like Sonkie is expanding again. He is certainly trying to win this by just overall outproducing Yellow.
This is a classic example of what the Zerg can really do. They can expand so quickly all over the map. And that's sort of a hidden expansion. It's not easily defended. It's not near his main forces. He may have trouble defending it if the Protoss see it with some air units or some other mobile abilities. But right now, the Zerg player has the Protoss player bottled up so badly, there's really not a lot the Protoss player can do to get over there. You see he's got some Stalkers in play. These are on the high ground. He's using the advantage of the cliffs to really wail down at these units. Now, the Roaches have a little bit of range, but in StarCraft 2, you can't shoot what you can't see, and you can't see up cliffs anymore. So he was forced to run away from that battle until he can get some Overlords or some other aerial detection in play so he can spot what's going on the high ground.
Now we see Yellow going for a few more gateways. He is going to be producing a ton of units here. These two currently aren't working yet because he hasn't assigned anything to them. Over on the production menu to see what he's going to be working on. He only has those gateways in play. He really needs to get some more units on the field. Oh, but he is researching Warp Gate. Let's hear about that.
Yeah, so Warp Gate's a very powerful new ability. It allows you to warp in units anywhere you've got pylon power. You can really use this to make great defensive moves. It also produces a production speed bonus. So using Warp-In is more efficient than using regular gateways. It'll really allow him to put a lot of troops on the field. And now that he's got that expansion, he will have the resources to make use of those Warp Gates and really start spawning a large number of Protoss troops.
Now, but we're not sure if it's going to be able to keep up with the production of the Zerg with all of the bases that he currently has. Wow, the Zerglings just took out that probe, no problem. Now Yellow has no idea what's going on in Sonkie's base. He is unable to scout the rest of the map because Sonkie's just able to keep him holed in.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like the Zerg continue the containment strategy, and this is looking really rough for the Protoss player. He's definitely doing pretty well. He's got a large force on the battlefield. He's got some expansions, but he really needs to push out there if he wants to hope to win this battle. You can see how bottled up he is, how trapped he is. Meanwhile, the Zerg have expanded not once but twice, and they're continuing to own the middle of the map, killing every scout that comes out, trying to see what's going on because he just can't get out to see what's happening.
Wow, and now we can see that Sonkie obviously is feeling pressured by all of these units up on the cliff. So we do see him building his spire up back in his main base.
Yeah, this is going to give him the aerial mobility that will allow him to strike at the Protoss directly, be able to strike them home. You can see both players on our army menu there have fairly equal-sized forces, so really there's no advantage. The advantage in this kind of battle would go to the person with the terrain or the proper counters. And I would say right now, if the Zerg tries to push in, he's going to be in a lot of trouble against the Protoss. So he's going to keep dancing around, looking for a chance to get on some high ground, to get some aerial units, and really do some damage.
Ooh, and we're likely going to see a bloody battle out here. Yellow now has a ton of units in play, and he even has blink research, so we're likely going to see some mad kiting out of Yellow.
Yeah, this is a very powerful ability, especially against the Zerg, who have some trouble sort of catching those blinking units. And you can see the Protoss players pushing in. The Zerg player is forced to back up here against this very powerful Protoss army that's knocking right at his front door.
So right now, Yellow's just trying to contain Sonkie because he's obviously just been owning the center of the map. Wow, and here we have an Overlord getting taken out by Yellow, so we don't see any more base. And now, Sonkie did see that Overlord getting attacked by all the stalkers, so as soon as that army went away, he was going to try to flank him, but likely Yellow just turned right around. There we have the Archons.
Here comes the real danger for the Zerg. The Archons are in play. Neither player's been able to gain the advantage, but this looks really bad for the Zerg. Those Archons can do terrible, terrible damage to those Zerglings, and it looks like the Zerg knows that he's trying to get away from the fight. Oh, there's the blink, trying to catch up with the Zerg, doing some additional damage. The Archons are leading the charge into the Zerg base.
Wow, those Archons are going to prove to be great meat shields. We have them focusing down those roaches, looking like Yellow does know how fast they can regenerate. But you see those stalkers laying down a ton of damage. Those Zerglings are trying to get in there, but they just can't. They're stuck behind all the roaches. Do you see a couple Mutalisks in play? Are they going to be able to turn the tide?
It looks like the Protoss player is trying to back up, trying to do a little bit of damage. He's moving away from the fight a little bit, using his blink, moving his wounded units out of the battlefield. You can see how powerful it is. Every time a unit gets too hurt, he moves it away from the roaches, and he's just tearing them to pieces. What great micro. He missed one, but he's gotten so many.
Wow.
Oh, wow, look how damaged that one was. He got it out just in time, moving it away, doing terrible damage to this Zerg force.
That is excellent micro use of blink on those stalkers. That was an amazing play by Yellow. He is going to have to retreat because the Zerg player has now just been able to completely outproduce him. That was
what a great move by the Protoss player. He really got a lot of damage out of that battle. He really did a lot more than anybody thought he could have done. And you can see he's still feeling pretty frisky about it. He thinks he's still got the advantage, and he's going to move in. Oh, what a surprise play. Went in and took out that queen in one volley. All gone queen. And now he's sort of picking away at the Zerg, tearing away at their Zerglings, and he continues to pressure in to this very, very under siege Zerg base.
Oh, this is not looking good for Sonkie. He's able to push all the way into Sonkie's natural. We do see one Mutalisk actually trying to get back in there. He does have a few roaches getting built over on the production menu. He's going to need to be pumping out units as fast as possible to stop these stalkers. Likely he is going to be putting a bunch of Zerglings into play because this is important. They are a very good counter to stalkers, but Yellow is just so good at controlling that blink.
What an amazing move. He's really mastered that in just a few short hours. He's had to test out this alpha build. He's really learned very quickly how to make that blink work for him, and it looks like he's going to get a hatchery out of it, and he's going to move it. Use of blink, able to move in very quickly and prevent any of those workers who might have thought of running. You can see that the Zerg base is spawning some creatures out of the buildings die, but it's not enough to deal with the Archon, and it's not enough to deal with this massive force of Protoss right in the middle of the Zerg base.
So again, Sonkie's getting pressured very hard. We do have a ton more stalkers getting brought into play.
Oh, no. Oh, they're all over him. He's just tearing them to pieces. He's going to keep hitting him until the candy comes out. He's got him on the ground here, and he's just beating him again and again. He spawned some other Mutalisks from that other expansion, but that's not going to be enough to deal with all of those stalkers and that great micro.
Wow, and now in terms of units, we can see up there that Sonkie's army is vastly inferior to Yellow's, having only 11 Zerglings on the battlefield versus 25 Stalkers.
Yeah, I don't really see what the Zerg player can do at this point. He's really got his back to the wall. He's really just getting torn to pieces. It's really a bold for the Zerg player to hang in the game this long. He must be hoping these other expansions will be able to keep him in the game somehow, but it looks really bad.
Wow, we do have a few units being brought across the field, but those Zerglings are not going to be enough. We're just watching some mass carnage up in Sonkie's main base. Now, one of the differences that you may or may not have noticed in StarCraft 2 is that Broodlings actually jump right out of any destroyed Zerg buildings.
Right, they're very lightly armored, and they do time out very quickly. They have a very limited lifespan before they die, but they sometimes can make a small difference. You can see with that massive Protoss force, this time it didn't make a difference. He's running with the Spine Crawler, very slow off the creep, much faster when it's on the creep, but it's running for its life, trying to get away. And it looks like the Protoss player has missed it completely. A little bit of comedy here at the end for the Zerg player as he's trying to keep himself in this game.
So right now, because Yellow has been stuck in his base for such a large portion of the game, he has no idea where Sonkie is. He probably has no clue that he has anything else anywhere on the map because he hasn't been able to scout.
Yeah, and it looks like the Zerg player is falling back. Even his base defenses are running for their lives. But it looks like the Protoss has seen what's going on, and he is moving into the map here, owning the middle of the map, and he is going right after that poor Spine Crawler. Run! Run! You can make it! Oh, he couldn't make it.
And down goes the Spine Crawler. It does only have 100 HP when it's brought out of the ground to move around, which makes sense. And now we have a ton of Stalkers getting moved over. It's looking like the Zerglings led that Protoss army directly into Sonkie's later expansion.
Yeah, what a brave battle the Zerg have given us today. Really struggling against all possible odds. But you can see they're just being overwhelmed by this incredibly mobile, incredibly versatile Stalker force used by such a strong player who can make great use of that. Oh, here comes some Banelings. Oh, that's not a great unit against the Stalkers. It's really much more powerful against Zerglings, and there's the GG.
Wow, what a good game between those two players. You could really see how Yellow's microing StarCraft 2 skills absolutely carried over. So how about a big round of applause for Yellow for winning that first LT match?
So Yellow picks up the first matchup. We're going to have Rob go ahead and create the second map. And what is that map going to be?
We're going to be playing on New Antioch.
All right. Anything in particular you guys want to say about this map before we actually jump into the game?
Well, this is it's a new map for us. It's got a lot of our new mechanics in play, and you'll see some of these when we get to the map. We have a lot of abilities here. We've got the ability to hide your units from enemies using line of sight blockers. There's of course the Xenoga watchtowers, which you can capture, and they're very well situated in this map. It's also a little bit of a smaller map. There's still powerful chokes you can use to protect yourself, but you can expect it to be a pretty fast and bloody game.
Absolutely. It's looking like both of the players have already joined up, and they are ready to get this game underway.
All right, Game 2 of the StarCraft 2 exhibition is about to be underway. Let's hear from you guys.
Wow, so down in the left-hand corner of the map, it's looking like we actually have a red Protoss, so we have seen the colors switched up because Sonkie was the red Zerg last game, and over here in the 12 o'clock position, we do have the blue Zerg.
So this is a classic matchup on these maps. These players are positioned directly across from one another. It's a very, very fast kind of game that's going to be on this map at this point. And if you look towards the middle of the map, you'll see we have a couple of these Xenoga watchtowers in the game once again. Now, both of these watchtowers will give a lot of vision to both players, and control these towers may prove very key. There's a couple of other features to this map that are a little different from Lost Temple. Over here on the left-hand side of the map, you can see there are some rocks in position. If you can destroy these rocks, you can get access into the enemy base. So these are extremely tough, extremely hard to take out, especially in the early game. But once armies become extremely powerful, these are very easy to blow through, which means the map may change shape as the game goes on. If players focus on these rocks, they can open up new holes into the enemy base, allowing you to strike at them from unexpected directions.
That's right, and from both of these sides, there's actually rocks, destructible rocks heading up this ramp over here, and another new feature of the terrain in StarCraft 2 is these line of sight blockers. Whenever you have a unit on the other side, your enemy is going to be unable to see any of the ground forces that you have behind it.
Yeah, this can make a real difference, especially for both Zerg and Protoss forces, both of which have a lot of melee units and really want to make use of those behind the line of sight blocking terrain.
Ooh, and both of the players are actually just striking it rich right now. They were able to send their scout right over into the enemy player's base. Very early on, we can see Yellow is able to scout out Sonkie's base up here on the top. He's just going to be able to see that what it looks like Sonkie is going for another fast expand all the way down here into the high-yield mineral field.
And we can see here our resources tab is brought up, and you can see how fast the players are resourcing, both per minute, which is the plus number, and how much they're floating right now, how many resources they have in the bank. Generally speaking, you want to see players keep the amount of resources they're saving really, really low. They want to get as many forces on the field as possible. Spend all of that money the minute it comes in.
And now that Overlord, we can see down in the bottom left corner of the map, is able to make it into Yellow's base. So Sonkie knows his exact base position, and he sees him with that gateway out. We do see one Zealot getting built, but Yellow was going for some fast gas, so maybe we're going to see a different strategy out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've got two geysers in StarCraft 2 as opposed to StarCraft 1, you can harvest gas twice as quickly in the early game should you choose to. But the geysers do shut down after a short time. They have to re-energize. They have to find additional gas inside them, so they have to go down, and it's up to you to micro your workers off. We got a little worker battle going on there inside the base, and it looks like the probe is going to get away to fight another day.
Ooh, and here we go. Yellow making that assault, having only a probe and a Zealot in place. Looking like Sonkie's going to be going for that surround, but those Protoss are just able to get out.
Yeah, so it looks like he's going to get surrounded, but still, the disruption is still very valid. Even though he may lose those units, he has disrupted the Zerg. There's no resourcing going on right now in that base while he deals with that probe and with that Zealot.
So meanwhile, while Sonkie is getting very distracted back over at the Protoss player base, we can see that cybernetics core is in play, and just as we were talking, this is one of those abilities. The assimilator has now ran out of harvestable Vespene gas.
And so it's gone down. When it's red, you need to take your workers off and do something else with them. He forgot them for a little bit there, not quite macroing as fast as he needs to be, but it looks like he's remembered them. He's got them back in action, and he's got them back resourcing once again.
So what Yellow needs to do right now is definitely go for that warp gate ability, because we saw how strong it was for him in being able to just pump out those stalkers as the game went on.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful. Looks like the Zerg are kind of knocking at the Protoss door here. Only a couple of Zerglings moving in, the rest moving back. He doesn't quite have the forces right there in that position to really threaten the Protoss, and so he's going to back away.
Oh, and the Zealots not having charge are absolutely going to be unable to catch up to those Zerglings and do any damage to them. Now, we can see that Yellow does still not have knowledge about this high yield expansion, which is very important. As the Zerg player goes on, we might be able to see him just plain overwhelm the Protoss player.
This is a new feature of StarCraft 2. We've got some minerals that are worth more than others, and so these bring back more per trip than they would from the regular crystals. So this allows any player who captures this area to really gain a big economic advantage, but you can see how poorly defended that base was. There's almost no choke point there at all. It's extremely difficult to defend that base, so if anybody comes in that area, you're going to find it a lot harder to hold.
Oh, no, and it's looking like Yellow's just about to find it. Is the probe going to be able to make it there? Yes, it was able to see the creep on the map. It didn't quite make it to any of the buildings, but I'm sure that Yellow was watching that purple show up on his minimap.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows exactly what's going on over there right now. This is a classic move by the Zerg on this map, and it can be very dangerous for a Protoss player who doesn't move to counter it or doesn't expand on his own.
And we can see up on the unit menu, we do only see 4 Zealots in play compared to 21 Zerglings. It is possible that Sonkie might be able to overwhelm Yellow at this point because the ramp is very large. We could see those Zerglings run right by them, but that Photon Cannon is going to be launched down there, and now Sonkie knows that he has no chance against that and the Zealots combined.
It'd be extremely costly for him to try to move through that area, so he's going to back up and rally his forces and see what else he can do to break into that Protoss base. Oh, the Protoss have put down a robotics facility, and they put down a warp prism. This is a new ability for the Protoss. This is a new unit. It acts like a shuttle in almost every respect, except it can deploy to create an area of pylon power, which allows the Protoss to warp in anywhere they want, really on the battlefield at almost no notice. It's a very powerful way to drop in on an enemy with a sudden surprise, especially effective with units like Immortals or, more importantly, Dark Templar.
However, it just looks like Yellow's going to be using it to scout around and probably try to get... Oh, it's looking like he's going to be going for a backdoor pylon.
Yeah, that's kind of strange considering he's got the Warp Prism, which will already give him the ability to put the pylon in play. But it looks like he's going to try it anyway, move to the back there, and see what kind of damage he can do. Maybe he's planning on trying to hide some photon cannons back there as well.
Ooh, and now Yellow going for another one of the new units that we have here in StarCraft 2, the Colossus. This is especially strong against any ground forces.
Yeah, it has a very powerful ability to walk up and down cliffs. In addition, the Colossus has a powerful beam that sweeps back and forth across the battlefield that can do terrible, terrible damage to units like Zerglings. And there's that pylon, and there's those photon cannons that we were talking about. It looks like he's really going into position here, going to create a little barrier in the back of the Zerg base, create a little position that he can defend and presumably continue to warp in units. Meanwhile, at the front, it looks like the Zerg made a little abortive attempt there to attack, but it didn't quite work out, and they're moving away back towards the middle, while the Protoss continue to use that choke point and their Zealots to hold the line.
Wow, seeing all those cannons get built in the back of the base, I wasn't sure how he was going to use that Warp Prism, but now we know exactly what he's doing. He's building down a pylon to have a little backup. Maybe he's going to try spreading out his defenses a little more with that Warp Prism.
Wow, this is really a sneaky move. It looks like the Zerg player is completely unaware of what's going on. He has no idea the danger that's going on in the back. Of course, the Zerg may not be aware either that there's a Colossus right up on that cliff just waiting for his Zerglings to get close.
And if he's able to get close enough, we will see that large beam get thrown down very shortly. Oh, and now another feature about the Colossus is that they're actually able to walk directly up and down cliffs, no problem.
Yeah, and you can see now he's on the attack, moving out across the map, seeing what he can find. Oh, man, it looks like the Protoss are really doing their thing back there. If he had a little more creep, he might be a little safer, but he doesn't. Oh, the Zerg have seen the threat now. What can they do? Are they going to be able to get in there with the Zerg to do enough damage? It's a large Zerg force, but this will be extremely costly for the Zerg.
Now we're going to need to see Sonkie actually move in on those photon cannons, not on that pylon, because that phase prism, the Warp Prism, is the one providing all of the power right now. It's looking like those Zerglings going straight for that pylon are just getting taken out too fast. There are still 3 more photon cannons up, only 2 remaining. All those Zerglings, will they be able to take them down? Another photon cannon finishes off. We do see a few more Zerglings able to play. Whoa, and we've got 3 more cannons finishing off, and Sonkie now no longer has any defenses.
Oh, what a tough break for the Zerg player. He wasn't obviously quite as aware as he needed to be. StarCraft moves so fast, and he forgot that was putting power down, so he went directly for the pylons. But it looks like he's got, there we go, he's got a base defense in play, and he's managed to drop and destroy that last pylon. It looks like the Warp Prism's considering coming back in here, going to try to save these photon cannons, but that's way too late. Zerglings are small, they're easily killed, but they are extremely destructive against enemy buildings.
Now we do see the Warp Prism is moving along with 2 Colossus in it, getting dropped onto that high yield expansion, laying down a ton of damage. We really need to see them focus all the workers to take advantage of the ground splash damage available.
Yeah, the Colossus does a lot of splash damage, not that great against buildings, but very effective against small units like those Zerglings. If he can get the splash off, he can do some damage, but it looks like the Zerglings, they've taken one down. He really needs a wall in front of those Colossus. They're big, they're pretty tough, but not for cost. Oh, and there's the Zealot wall that's going to help him protect him. He's got a single Hydra moving in. That's not much of a threat, but the Zerglings are going to manage to take down that Colossus. and it looks like the Zerg are going to survive a little bit longer.
That's right. And those Zerglings, as soon as they were able to get the surround on that Colossus, it really didn't have a chance anymore, especially combined with all the Hydralisk backup. We do see 4 Zealots were loaded in. They're going to be moving up towards Sonkie's main. They're likely going to get unloaded to try to lay down a little economic pressure. We do see one a lone Hydralisk just trying to defend against that Warp Prism. Now, Hydralisks are especially strong. That Warp Prism escapes with only 1 HP. Are the Hydralisks going to be able to catch it? We do see Zerglings following, but no, those destructible rocks save the day.
Now, the Hydralisk moves much faster when it's creep, like all Zerg units, and of course it moves faster when it has an upgrade, but that wasn't fully upgraded, so it looks like he could have caught it if he had some creep in that area, but he didn't, and the Warp Prism will continue, dropping more Zealots to continue this fast and bloody raid on the Zerg Expand.
Now, difference of the Protoss shields, we do see that it's all the way back up to 40 shields already. He does have these Zealots down, trying to wreak as much havoc as he can on those drones down at the bottom. We do have the Warp Prism escaping back to the base. Now, on its way back, it was able to see Sonkie's new expansion. This could be bad news.
Yeah, and it looks like both players are actually doing very well on their worker counts, and they're both resourcing fairly well. It looks like the Zerg have forgotten about their gas a little bit there. They've got none coming in at all right now, so he's sort of falling behind on gas. It means we're going to have to see more Zerglings from him and less in there, less really effective forces. This is a really loss for him not to be resourcing his gas as well as he needs to be.
That's right. The Zerg player right now only has a lone extractor, and it was actually entirely depleted, but he likely just finished this other one. But there's only 148 remaining. It appears that those Zealots really did their job.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep the harassment up, keep the pressure on him, and it looks like while they're both resourcing very, very well, it's going to be a little bit harder for the Zerg unless he can take advantage of those high-yield resources and really make use of them in this coming fight.
Now, Warp Prism is moving around the side here. He's likely going straight for that expansion. I'm not sure that Sonkie is aware that Yellow knows exactly where that expansion is. We do see a few photon cannons out there, but are they enough to hold off all of those Zerglings and Hydralisks?
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be quite a wall. He's really protecting his expansion there while he continues to harass with this lone, badly damaged Warp Prism. It's got all its shield backs because shields regenerate very, very quickly. Oh my goodness, a couple of Colossus. That might be a problem. Moving down, tearing up those poor drones. They're going to force to run for it. It's not great against the buildings, you can see that, but still, these Zerglings don't pose a terrible, terrible threat to these Colossus in those few numbers.
Now, the problem was those Zerglings moving in are able to move so fast up to those Colossus that they actually aren't even to laser them down. We do see that they took 150 damage from only 5 Zerglings.
Yeah, that really creep speed really helps. Notice how fast they move when they enter the creep. Now, the Hydralisk might be a little bit of a problem.
Oh.
They do line up a little bit. He's trying to run for it, trying to get him out of there, but the Hydralisk can oh, there we go. He takes down both the Warp Prism and the Colossus, ends this endless raiding. He's got to feel good about that.
Let's see exactly what the Protoss player is going to do next. It's looking like he is cranking out another Colossi. Maybe he thinks that it's going to be a little more effective than that was. We didn't see much out of either of his Colossus there in those cases because of how fast those Zerg are.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the overlapping splash of the Colossus is extremely powerful. You get 3 or 4 of these things working together. Pretty soon you're one-shotting everything that approaches you. They never even get to shoot back, and it can do terrible, terrible damage to an army, especially units like Hydralisks that line up so nicely for that splash attack from the Colossus. But he never got enough into play. He was often dealing with Zerglings, which swarm up around the Colossus, which really meant the Zerg player never felt the full wrath, the full power of the Colossus.
So you see that both players are very even in terms of resources gathered per minute, but over on the Army menu, we can tell that the blue player is able to have a 400 extra Vespene gas. That normally means that he's going to have higher tech units out on the battlefield.
Yeah, and you can see he's using moving around those line of sight blockers there, trying to see what he can see. He's not seeing any Zealots hiding in there, no Protoss threats hiding out, so he can move back to his base, gather his forces, and consider his next move. And he does have the second expansion right now, so over time, this will make a big difference for the Zerg.
That's right. So back on the resource menu, let's see if it's really paying off. Yes, it is. He's at over 300 extra minerals per minute than the other player. We do see one of those Colossus out there, combined with the Stalker power, providing the meat shield for the Colossus. No, but we're going to see some focus fire out of that Zerg player, trying to take down those Colossus as fast as they can. They're just dealing too much damage. There we go. One Colossus getting taken down, and the Zerg is going to pull back all those Hydralisks from getting demolished by those photon cannons. Yeah,
it looks like the Protoss player's really walled himself in here. He's really preparing for quite a siege. He's going for a longer game, hoping he can get up some higher tech units perhaps, or build a larger army. But of course, the Zerg's second expansion is going to be decisive. He really needs to move out on this map and try to do some damage.
I don't know. What is Sonkie going to be doing with this sneaky drone? Is he going to be trying to expand again to another remote location? We'll find out soon. Oh, no, it's looking like he's just kind of scouting around. He's not exactly trying to build a hatchery anywhere around here. He is just concentrating on microing his army around the middle. We do have a ton of Hydralisks in play, which aren't exactly the strongest unit to have against ground forces.
Yeah, they're a little light against the ground forces, but they're extremely strong against the Colossus, of course. And they're pretty decent against the Stalkers. What the Protoss player really needs right now is good old-fashioned Zealots. They can really tear these things to pieces. Even a few Nullifiers could be helpful in a battle against these things. Oh, these Stalkers are in a lot of trouble. That's not a good place to be. They're quickly got taken down by mass Hydralisk fire. Sort of a pointless loss of a couple of Stalkers.
And I can see that Yellow is in it for the long haul with his ground forces. He is researching the Protoss ground weapons over there, so we're likely going to see a few more warp gates out of him. And yes, we're going to see this is the warp gate animation. We can see all those units. It only takes 5 seconds to get them warped in, and it reduces their creation cooldown by a full 10 seconds. So if you're able to micro and keep track of that warp gate that doesn't have a build queue, you're really going to pull ahead.
Yeah, it really, really helps you in a battle this large to be able to create units much more quickly, but it can make things a little bit more challenging for you because you can't queue anything up. And it looks like the Zerg player is expanding once again. Now, both these players should be using the rocks, especially the Zerg player should be tearing up these rocks in the back to crack their way into the Protoss base. He could bypass that entire front line right now if he chose to do so. But both these players have only had a few hours with the game. They're not quite aware of all the nuances yet. He has got a bunch of Banelings coming in there. Those are actually surprisingly pretty good against base defenses. They might be able to do some damage. It's a small sapper unit. They explode on contact, but he could do some damage to that front line of photon cannons if he chooses to make a push.
That's right. Those Banelings do a ton of damage to buildings. As a matter of fact, we can see now there's much different bonus damages here in StarCraft 2. The Banelings deal 55 damage to all units and an extra 45 to any structures that they hit, which means that they're going to do 100 damage each.
Yeah, they're terrible, terrible damage against base defenses. Not so great against something like a War Factory or a Gateway. It has so many hit points. But against those lighter structures like bunkers or against photon cannons, they can be extremely effective. Of course, that was quite a ferocious line of photon cannons and stalkers the Protoss player has in play there. So I don't know if the Zerg player is going to be able to crack down this front door or not, but it looks like he's feeling pretty frisky and might want to try it. Ooh, there's some High Templars in the back there. We can see that Psystorm is under production. He is researching it. Will it get done in time? If it does, we can see a lot of damage done to this Zerg force.
The Zerg player is going to need to make a push as soon as possible. Now, as we were talking about before, those back doors, one of the options here is that he can actually run behind his expansion. He could have made it all the way around this way to get behind the Protoss player, but he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Map familiarity is a huge part of the original StarCraft and a big part of StarCraft 2 as well. And you can see both of these forces are moving up here, moving into a position where they can engage against the enemy. It looks like there might be a little fight ahead of us.
Whoa, and it's looking like there's going to be a large fight out front. We can see that both the players out here, we do see a ton of Banelings moving into play. And they're going to be going straight for those photon cannons to try and take them down. We do see a large fight out front. We see the Psystorm has finished researching by now. Those Stalkers are going to be laying down as much cover fire as they can, trying to take down the Banelings before they're able to reach them. Those Hydralisks are being microed backwards, and the Stalkers and Colossus just might be able to prevail over these Hydralisks because they are air specialized.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Hydralisks there did pretty well. They managed to do some damage, but those Banelings were wasted again on the Stalkers. He really wants to use those on Zealots or on the structures themselves. The Stalkers are an armored unit. They don't take any bonus damage from those Banelings. The splash doesn't really help them very, very much. So it looks like there was a bit of a mistake for using those Banelings. It could have been a lot more powerful for them. And here come the Archons again. This is another terrible, terrible problem for a Zerg player. He really needs to get in some Ultralisks if he wants to deal with that kind of powerful splash ability.
And so we have a ton of Hydralisks still over here, but little sneaky Sonkie has already got another expansion. This is really, really good at this point, but of course, Yellow has begun to catch on. He really needs to try and keep up in terms of economics. He does have that high-yield mineral field just about to become his.
Yeah, and you can see here we've got some lurkers in play. We've got an Overseer. We've got a pretty large Zerg force, but the Protoss have come knocking. They're moving in the front door, and you can see that right now the Protoss player has just a little bit of an advantage in combat units, not much of one. This is a pretty even fight. Not here, of course, but if the Zerg choose to move back and protect themselves, this could be bad for both players. We'll see what happens. Here come the Banelings storming in, wasting themselves, and the lurkers have gone down. There's no detection in the area right now for the Protoss, and he's just lost a Colossus to those lurkers. They do terrible, terrible damage against armored forces right now.
Ooh, and was that worth it for him to take out that hatchery? He lost the majority of his army, as we can see, but he does. He's still right about half of the forces that Yellow has available.
Yeah, so it looks like it was still a pretty even fight. It was a big loss for the Protoss player. Lost a lot of his forces, but he's still warping in forces in the back of his base here in this alpha version of StarCraft 2.
Ooh, and if Sonkie is able to find this high yield expansion, it is going to be in big trouble because it does only have 2 cannons defending it. All of these lurkers and these Hydras are going to be able to take it out no problem. We're going to likely see the Hydras try to be some sort of meat shield. No, he's just going to be getting real bold and getting those lurkers out there. Wow, 1 volley from the lurker spines, and that first photon coming goes down, as well as the second one. Whoa, and we see the Psystorm getting laid down on all of those burrowed lurkers. Does he have enough energy for a second? Yes, he does, and we're going to see that lurker almost go down. It escapes with 31 HP.
Wow, what a great move, what a great use of Psystorm. Of course, he really couldn't see those things very well. He couldn't see them hidden underground, but you don't need to see them to hit them with Psystorm. What a great move, and he's managed to take out the bulk of that Zerg force.
Now, Sonkie, seeing how effective these banelings have been for him, is likely going to be continuing to build a bunch of them. We do see in production another 4. So total on the field, he's going to have right around 10 more of them. That could be a potential 1,000 damage to any structures that he targets.
Yeah, this could be really, really destructive. We really need to see the Protoss player get some more detection in play, or he's going to have to, of course, continue doing what he's been doing, which is making great use of Psystorm to counter this lurker threat. And here come a lot of Stalkers and a bunch of High Templars as well. Now, the Stalker is, of course, a great unit, but it takes a ton of bonus damage from those lurkers. It's not the ideal unit in that situation. Looks like we had a little bit of slowdown going on here. I don't know what's going on, but here come the Zerg moving in on this Protoss expansion once again.
Well, we're going to be targeting that photon cannon, able to take it down very quickly. Unfortunately, it is a detector, so all those Stalkers are able to see those lurkers and get them focus fired right down. Whoa, some great micro out of Yellow. We do see him take down all of those Hydralisks as well as targeting all of the banelings with his Stalkers.
Yeah, and he's got an observer overhead right now, so he can see what's going on. He's prepared for the lurker threat. We really need to see the Zerg player try something new. With all of this threat out there, he's not going to be able to deal with this kind of Protoss force. He really needs to do something besides use the lurkers, or if he's going to continue with them, he's going to have to get a lot more clever with how he's using them.
So whenever you see some sort of building in StarCraft 2 that has this little picture down by it, that means that it's a detector and it's able to see any units that are normally invisible without them present.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really powerful ability. Of course, it's really, really necessary when dealing with the Zerg. Another thing we could see from the Zerg right now, if he would go Infestors, this would give him a very powerful ability to deal with these Stalker units. But the Infestor's a new unit. It's kind of hard to learn all these new units so quickly. These players haven't had a ton of time with it, and it looks like the Protoss are pushing into the base here. Not a lot of options for the Zerg. Oh, great use of Psystorm. Classic ability. Oh, he caught a few of his own units there. Not too bad, but a little bit of damage. And still, the Protoss are in control here. They're moving into the Zerg base, and they're tearing apart this very important expansion.
Ooh, he took just about all of his shields out with that, but fortunately enough in StarCraft 2, when your units go without being attacked for a certain amount of time, they then regenerate their shields very, very quickly. So because Sonkie is not laying down a continued barrage of damage on these Protoss forces, we do see that all of their shields are now just about back at full.
And there's the tail right now. There you can see the Protoss have a real advantage in their economy and in their army size. They've got 4,475 minerals to roughly 1,000 for the Zerg. The Zerg are in a lot of trouble here. They're being pressured on multiple fronts. Their main expansion is under attack, or their big expansion is under attack, and it looks like the Protoss are just doing whatever they want right in the middle of the battlefield.
And he's just trying to take those distractors down right now. What he should be doing with all these Stalkers is moving up into the main base, and I think that he heard me because here we have a few Stalkers getting moved up there. We do only have 3 lurkers in play to defend them, and those observers combined with those Stalkers are absolutely going to be able to destroy them because they won't be invisible.
Yeah, what a massive, massive force of Stalkers moving into play here. Oh my goodness, that's just a terrible threat for the Protoss player. He's taken a few free hits here. He must be looking at something else right now. Must be distracted by some other part of the battlefield, trying to manage all of these units everywhere, all the stuff that's going on. There's just a lot happening all over the place. Even now as we're watching this, you can see there's other dots moving around on the map, and there's a little warp in action for you. There's how you can use warp in, and hey, look, here's some Immortals moving into play. These things are hit extremely hard. They take reduced damage, and you do anything more than 10 points of damage to them, you take it reduces that damage with that powerful shield, and you can see just bouncing a lot of attacks from those lurkers.
And now that observer just went down. It looked like it wandered just a little too far into the Zerg player's base. The Overlords now evolve into Overseers in order to have detection. A couple other functions that they have is the ability to spawn a Changeling, which drops on the ground and then morphs into what looks like an enemy player, so it enables a free scout to be in that Zerg base.
Yeah, you can hide out with your Changeling, and maybe the other player won't notice it. You can keep it in play. You can really see what's going on inside the Zerg base. It looks like the Zerg player in this case is primarily using these units to really see what's going on. He's just using them as detectors, but they really are capable of a lot of other abilities.
So for now, it's looking like Yellow is just waiting for that observer to get out into play. Now over here on the unit menu, we do see that he does have that. It's likely going to get moved across the map as soon as possible because he's going to need to try and see all of those lurkers burrowed underground. We see a lone stalker trying to take out 2 Zerglings. Is he going to be able to do it? No, the Zerglings are going to take that stalker right down.
Yeah, it looks like the Protoss player is really in control here.
Whoa.
Oh, here we go. Here's a little bit of danger for the Protoss player, something to worry about. Now, Stalkers are pretty decent against these guys, so this might not be a great fight for the Ultralisks. He does have an overseer overhead. If he knows about it, he can use transfusion, which will allow him to instantly heal any biological unit of a large amount of health. 200 points of damage gets healed. So it looks like he could use that if he knows to use it to really keep those Ultralisks in the battle. There's nothing worse than having an Ultralisk almost dead and see it pop back on its feet. Still, that's a huge number of Immortals and Stalkers in front of his base. I'm not sure those Ultralisks, as impressive as they are really going to be able to break through that massive, massive Protoss force knocking at his front door.
Ooh, and Sonkie was getting a little antsy in his base. He's going to be making the move forward, trying to take all these Immortals, but those Immortals are the perfect counter to all of these Ultralisks because not only do they deal bonus damage to them because they are armored units, but the Immortals also only take 10 damage per hit while their shields are still up.
Yeah, now the Ultralisk does have a splash ability. He does do very well against Zealots. He does really well against Marines. Not as great against Stalkers, and he's very vulnerable to those Immortals. And you can see the Protoss player is just very aware of this, and he's just tearing into this Zerg base.
Wow, the Protoss player was able to make it all the way in there, and he says that is the GG. So Sonkie has now lost 0-2 against Yellow. What a great best of 3 between these two players in the StarCraft 2 exhibition match.
Yeah, you can see both players trying very hard using some of the new units and abilities. We saw some great micro with that blink. We saw a lot of great action here. Both players still obviously learning the game. We still got this pre-alpha version of StarCraft 2 where we're still working on the game and still developing all the technology and all the gameplay that goes into it.
Great job, you guys. How about a round of applause, not only for our players, but our 2 celebrity broadcasters up here.
Very, very intriguing stuff. Great job, guys. And congratulations to Yellow for winning the StarCraft 2 exhibition match. Before we go ahead and wrap up the show, is there anything else that you wanted to comment on about the games?
Well, it was really exciting to see both of these players really trying to learn the game. There's obviously a lot of new tactics and a lot of new strategies that are still being developed and that these players really will continue to learn as they continue learning the gameplay experience.
And if you haven't already, get over there and play StarCraft 2 immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I suspect there's a few people interested and excited for StarCraft 2. Yeah. All right. Me too. Guys, fantastic. Excellent stuff. BlizzCon 2008, that was the StarCraft 2 exhibition match. Your winner is Yellow from Korea. But a big round of applause once again for Dustin and Rob for bringing you this action here at BlizzCon 2008.
Now we do have another treat for everyone there at home. Next up on the screen, we are going to give you a Lost Temple replay that we had casted over a little bit earlier between 2 of our game balance designers. You can see some excellent plays from both of these, as well as great use of all of the tech available in StarCraft 2.
Yes, these are 2 designers on the team who know the game really well and are very, very skilled players. They know exactly what's going on. And so this is a match that we captured, and we've got up here on the big screen for you to check out to see what happens when players who really, really know all the intricacies of the game do when they throw down in an extremely competitive environment.
That's right, so stay tuned.
The 2008 BlizzCon Tournament webcast is brought to you by ATI, Dell, and by Intel.